Looks like it, doesn't it?
I found out some interesting things about those murders. Just like you...
That's wonderful news. I promised Catherine we'd wait for her.
You know Catherine?
She came to see me soon after you did, and started asking me questions. Just like you.
Will you send for her? So, we're all here.
I hope nobody else shows up. How did it go?
I reckon I've found out all I can.
And do you know who the murderer is?
Not exactly, but I have a few ideas.
I've asked around a bit. I have my own suspicions.
Is that so? See, I was trying to recall some more details, and I had someone come to mind as well.
I didn't do all this for nothing, did I?
Well,
Catherine, who do you suspect?
Well, I think it was that priest, Prokop.
That's nonsense. It couldn't have been him.
Couldn't have? Then who do you think it was?
It had to be William. Nobody else knew them all.
Ah, now you're talking nonsense. I'm sure William is innocent.
So I see we disagree. Too bad. We could have been done with it quickly.
Well, who do you think it was then?
I'm not entirely sure. First, I'll tell you what I found out, and then it might be easier for us.
Go on then. Starting with who?
Let's talk about Yarka, the one raised by Father Prokop.
What did you learn about her?
Prokop didn't just raise her out of the goodness of his heart. He was actually her uncle.
Really? But he still could have killed her.
His own relative?
Why not? He's a priest. I'm sure he knows the story of Cain and Abel.
Prokop also admitted that he didn't know how to handle her, and perhaps he was too strict.
What do you expect from a Bible thumper? Man punishes and God forgives. It never occurs to them that if man didn't punish, God wouldn't have to forgive.
Well, maybe I wouldn't hold it against him. He really tried to make sure she was well taken care of. He wanted to find her a husband, too.
And did you learn who he found?
No. I think it fell apart when Yarka started rebelling. Yarka started working for the von Grolla family, where she remained until her death.
I was there to ask whether she'd given them any trouble, but they said she was always thorough and reliable.
Ah, so what's the story with von Grolls?
A very wealthy and important family. The mother is quite devout, known to spend a lot of time in prayer. Old von Grolla's been sick for years. Can't even get out of bed.
So, who runs affairs?
That would be young Hendel. They say he's quite successful.
Before her death, I heard she often went to dances.
There's nothing wrong or surprising about that. But maybe she found someone there.
Maybe. Prokop was convinced that she went to see William. That was actually the only name he mentioned.
That doesn't mean anything.
It means she had some relationship with William, or at least knew him.
And now, most importantly, Yarka was pregnant when they killed her.
I didn't know that. Do you know for sure? So they gutted her?
To make it impossible to tell she was pregnant? I wouldn't be surprised.
May God forgive us.
Do you know who she was pregnant with? Because if we know who the father is, we'll likely know who the killer is.
She didn't tell Prokop.
It had to be someone from those dances. Maybe William.
Prokop is convinced that she was murdered by that bard, William.
And I agree with him. I heard the daughters of important men come to see him. It even went so far he had to flee the city. And the moment he's back, there's another murder.
Really? But I found out you accused Prokop first, Lumir.
What? Why?
It doesn't matter. It was a mistake, and I paid for it.
And were you as sure then as you are now about William?
I don't think so. But he's a skirt chaser. If he got Yarka pregnant, then...
Perhaps. But why would he kill and mutilate her? He could have just run away.
But then he could never come back.
Why not? He could come back a year later, once things have died down, the child would be born, the shame forgotten, and nobody would bring it up again.
I suppose that makes sense. That's all I was able to find out.
You still found out more than I did.
But it's not enough. We still don't know who the killer is.
But we can agree that she was killed because of her pregnancy, can't we?
Agreed. Somebody got rid of her to make sure nobody found out she was pregnant.
I'm sure William wanted...
William isn't the only man with a prick. And he certainly didn't use it to strangle her to death.
Such language. What are you trying to say?
That William isn't the only man in the city. It could have been anyone. And now we'll never find out.
I'm not saying it couldn't have been him. Though I don't think it was. It just seems foolish to only focus on him.
I suppose you're right. Let's forget it.
I managed to find Stanya.
Alive? You found her alive?
I did. Alive and well. Hiding with the charcoal burners.
So, she's not one of our victims?
She is. She just managed to escape the killer. She said she was attacked on her way home from the baths. She heard somebody talking in a side street, but it was empty. But when she walked by, someone grabbed her by the throat and started strangling her.
And how did she manage to get away?
She was holding an empty pitcher, and she smashed the killer in the face with it.
Did she get a look at him? Did she take his eye out or something?
No, she didn't stop to find out. Just ran. Which is probably why she survived.
And what about the blood in the bedroom?
She cut her hand on the broken pitcher. She didn't stay in her room for long. She was still so scared that she grabbed her things and ran off to her beloved charcoal burner. Well, according to Stanya, the murderer had a terribly strong grip. Her neck was bruised for almost a month.
Doesn't almost every man have a strong grip?
Depending on what they take in hand every day. A tankard, a quill, or a hammer.
Except none of our suspects are miners or blacksmiths, eh? She said she returned from the baths in the evening regularly, and somebody knew exactly which way she would take and where to wait for her.
You mean someone followed her beforehand to figure out where to ambush her?
Who knew that she went to the baths?
Apparently everyone in the tavern. She didn't hide the fact. According to Stanya, the murderer didn't say a word the entire time.
That's strange, right? I'd expect him to at least call her a whore.
The only word he uttered was when she smashed him in the face with the pitcher. He said Scheisse.
So, we're looking for a German?
Even I say Scheiße sometimes, and I'm not German.
Stanya admitted that she knows William. He flirted with her and tried to get to know her better, but nothing came of it.
And that's probably why I wanted to kill her. And likely rape her before that.
Well, perhaps, but Stanya doesn't think so. She's sure it wasn't William, and no matter what they say about him, in her eyes he's a good lad. Besides that, she also recalled hearing two voices in the alley. Someone was talking to the killer.
So we have a witness. Now, just to find him.
Or an accomplice. If I remember correctly, the other one must have seen the whole thing, right? And he didn't go to report it.
Praise the Lord.
Good day.
I asked Stanya if she knew Prokop. She said no.
Maybe she just doesn't remember him. Or he gave a different name, or...
I don't think Father Prokop is the type to frequent the worst tavern in Kuttenberg.
She also said she was sure it wasn't Mole. He may be a pig, but the evening she ran home, he was in bed snoring. And that's all that Stanya told me.
I'm so glad that girl is alive.
Me too. At least someone's had a little luck. Does she want to come back, or will she stay with the charcoal burners?
I don't think she'll come back. She's so scared now they'll come back for her, she doesn't even leave the house. I managed to find Zdena.
You found her? Is she alive too?
No. Unfortunately, she's dead.
And where did you find her?
Pretty far away. Near the mill she used to sell things at. Someone caught her in the forest when she was coming home with a load of coin and killed her. I reckon she put up a hell of a fight. So the killer got nervous and ended things quickly.
So he didn't strangle or mutilate her?
She'd been lying in the woods for a long time, so I couldn't really tell. But he definitely didn't hack her up like the others. Judging by what her accomplice said, she robbed someone good. She had so much jewellery on her, she could hardly carry it. And what's odd is when she was murdered, the killer left her basket of valuables behind.
So I reckon he didn't kill her for the money.
Father Prokop came looking for Zdena and nearly cursed her on the spot.
What did he have in common with a thief?
He had also looked after her, but unlike Yarka, she ended up on the street, and he took it badly. Zdena tried to rob young von Grolle. It's possible she succeeded.
Von Grolle? Yarka worked for them, didn't she?
Ah, that whole family is suspicious.
Assumptions. Nothing more.
I'd say it's pretty obvious. Why else would I have found that ring on her?
They just left the ring by her body? That's odd, isn't it?
It wasn't by her body. It was inside of it. I don't know if she swallowed it herself or someone shoved it in her.
Ah, that's awful. But I can't say it surprises me.
My mouth is starting to hurt from all this blabbering.
So are my ears and head.
Come now, we're nearly there. We just need to find our suspect. So, Henry, who do you think did it?
I suspect one of the von Grolles.
What leads you to think that?
Are you sure it wasn't William?
Yarka was their maidservant until she started rebelling, right?
Yes. Do you think she was rebelling because of someone in particular?
Perhaps the young lord?
That's possible.
Alice had a young and wealthy suitor, and young von Grolle fits both descriptions.
True, true.
We could be getting somewhere.
Yarka was pregnant, and if the father was young von Grolle, it would make sense if he got rid of her.
Sakura, you're right.
But William could have fucked her too. Just saying.
Zdena robbed von Grolle,
That's true.
It's all coming together, isn't it?
and that's all I can pin on him.
So, do we agree that it was young Von Groll?
Well, old von Grolle can't do much now, can he?
So do we really agree that our most likely suspect is young von Grolle?
Aye. I agree.
I don't have a problem with it. Little rich boys are capable of anything. But what are we gonna do about it? Our suspicions aren't enough.
They'll just laugh at us without something more tangible.
So, you wanna search their house?
There's nothing else we can do. There must be a...
We have to find some evidence. None of our conjecture is enough. What will we do?
You could sneak in there.
Or break in?
Catherine, that's not necessary. The young lad wants to learn swordsmanship, and the old one is sick and always calling for a physician.
So I can either pretend to be a sawbones or a swordsman, or break in? That's a lot of options.
You're a clever lad. You'll figure it out.
Crazy. The other day, I was standing in the yard when I saw this cloud in the sky.
Praise the Lord. quality goods.
Fresh cottage cheese. Smoke. Eh?
But it's still too expensive. How am I supposed to feed my family?
Tell me about it. I can barely feed.
What do you have for...
Thank you. And a good day to you. Friend.
What's that noise?
What are you doing here?
My young apprentice visited some guard.
Eat it.
What? What are you doing here? You aren't allowed here. You'll pay me compensation for this, otherwise I'll call the guards.
All right, let's sort this out.
I won't have you causing trouble here. Cough up some
No, you're right.
That's better. And don't do... Time to go.